Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today, taking time out of your day to come and join us for this webinar. My name is Anna Jones. I'm a registered dietitian, and I work with clients both individually and in groups to help them make healthy lifestyle changes to meet their goals, no matter what that might be, whether it's weight loss or just getting healthier or reducing cholesterol or whatever, whatever the goal is. That's what I help people, just managing habits and just life in general, and sort of focusing on nutrition and physical activity. So we have quite a few people here today signed up and listening in, and I know this is a hot topic. Everyone wants to know, what's the best diet, what works and what doesn't, and that's always a popular area of conversation, right? No matter where you go. So I hope to touch on that today and give you some good information and some resources and things like that you can use. If you will, just hold your questions until the end. I'll try to remember to check in with you maybe halfway through and see if you do have any questions. But it's a lot for me to try to do the webinar, and I have this little tiny box that I have to look for questions in. So if you would just kind of hold those to the end, I would love to hear your questions, and I'll try to leave time for those. All right, well, let's get started. So diets that work is our topic today, and as your screen says, diet can be a four-letter word, right? So if you think what that word sort of conjures up to you, it's usually not a positive thing. Anytime you go on a diet, it usually means deprivation or doing without, and I think that's where a lot of us go wrong, really, is taking that approach when we want to make healthy change. There's a lot of misinformation out there. If you do a Google search, everybody has an opinion on what the best eating plan is, how to lose weight. It's rampant, no matter what their background is or their education. And just because even someone tried a certain way to lose weight doesn't mean that they're going to keep it off long term. And it also doesn't mean it necessarily will work for you, because each one of us, our bodies are different. So it's really important to know the source of the information that you're, reading about, whether it's a book or online. Constantly there are books, new books, diet books coming out. And so it's easy to kind of jump on the bandwagon as far as that's concerned. But you really have to know, your source when it comes to information. And even if the source is a physician or someone who sounds reputable, it's also helpful to know, well, where did they get their information? Is it through research or is it just their opinion? And that matters too. So just a little reminder too, be sure to stay with me until the end of today's webinar to have a chance at a $50 Visa gift card. I'll be giving that away. I'll just ask a fairly simple question, and the first one to respond will get that $50 gift card. So just listen well, and you won't have any trouble answering that question. All right, so annually, every year, and you may have heard of this, the U.S. News and World Report puts out the best diet rankings for the year. So this is one of those where, you might say, well, what does U.S. News and World Report know about diet? And that's a good point, but actually they put together a panel of experts. So it's top dietitians and doctors, physicians who specialize in diabetes and heart disease and weight loss. And this panel of experts actually assesses, this year it was 38 diets, and basically it's popular diets that are out there. And they rank these diets based on how easy they are to follow, whether or not they can help with weight or weight loss, both not only in just the short term, but also long term. And then also they look at the potential effectiveness of protecting against heart disease and diabetes. So all of those things are, of course, important. Not everyone goes on a diet, or changes the way they eat just for weight. Some people, like I mentioned earlier, are trying to reduce cholesterol or lower blood pressure, that sort of thing. So this year, the three best, really it's the best overall because they have different categories. The three best diets of 2017 were named as the DASH diet, the Mediterranean diet, and the MIND diet. So you might have heard of one of these. Maybe you've tried one of these, hopefully. But each of these, and they not only won, so those are, each of those got 1, 2, and 3 as far as best overall, but they also, for instance, DASH won for diet for healthy, best, number 1 for diet for healthy eating, and best diet for heart disease and diabetes also. The Mediterranean diet got number 2, not only overall, but also for healthy eating, and tied for number 1 as the easiest diet to follow. Because of course that's important, if a diet is super complicated, and maybe you've tried one of those before that is complicated or has a lot of rules. I have a couple that I'm thinking of, and I won't name any names, but whenever it's super restrictive or has a lot of rules, then the likelihood that you're going to stick with it and follow through long term is pretty low. So the key, of course, to a diet or a plan working long term is it being easy to follow. So the Mediterranean diet is, again, one of those that's easy to follow. And then the MIND diet got number 3 best diet overall, and number 3 as best diet for healthy eating, and then also tied for number 1. There were like 4 diets that tied for number 1, and it's a scoring thing that they do for the diets. But again, the MIND diet is easy to follow too. So today, what I'm going to go through is take each of those diets one by one. I'm going to let you know what they are, what foods are included, the health benefits, and tips on how to incorporate them. And then I also am going to give you some resources in case one of them really sort of sticks out to you as one that might be helpful for you and your individual needs. I give some resources at the end of each diet. So let's start with the DASH. The DASH diet is, DASH stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. The DASH diet was originally designed to help people lower blood pressure, which is hypertension, of course. So hypertension is the leading cause of preventable death worldwide. Hypertension has the potential or risk of leading to stroke. And so, of course, anything we can do to try to reduce that is great. And quite a few people have it. As we age, 1 in every 3 adults have hypertension, and then another 1 in every 3 adults has pre-hypertension. So not quite at the levels of hypertension, but on the way there. So, like I said, it puts us at risk for stroke, but also heart attack and kidney disease too. So certainly something that we want to try to ward against. So the DASH plan alone in research, just by itself, has been shown to lower blood pressure just as well as medication. So in comparison to a group being on medication, diet alone was shown to lower blood pressure. And that's just sort of one more piece of evidence that shows that, like I say all the time, really food and nutrition and diet really can be, medication. It can be medicine for the body if we let it be. All right. So, like I said, originally DASH was designed to help people sort of specifically with high blood pressure to lower high blood pressure. But what they found, and what we'll get to in a little bit, is it has lots of other health benefits too. So first, let's talk about what foods are included. 2 to 3 servings of low-fat or non-fat dairy, and a serving is like a 6 or 8 ounce cup of yogurt, or an 8 ounce glass of milk, or a piece of string cheese. Those are all considered servings. I know that's kind of an area where people are like, well, what's a serving? And so just to give you some idea there. 7 to 8 servings of whole grains, and this is all per day, of course. 7 to 8 servings of whole grains, so not so much the white stuff, but more leaning towards whole grains. So whole wheat bread, brown rice is just one example, the one we tend to go to most, but there's so many different whole grains, quinoa, farro, lots of different sort of ancient grains that are becoming popular now. And about a half a cup is considered a serving, or a slice of bread, or a half of a bagel, like a whole wheat bagel, is a serving. 2 servings of lean meat, such as fish and chicken and turkey, and a serving is about the size of the palm of your hand, which is about 3 to 4 ounces. 8 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables. So when we look at that, and I know anyone who's been on one of my webinars in the past, I'm constantly talking about fruits and vegetables, and you see here 8 to 10 servings is most of us are missing the boat on that, just in general. So if you're nowhere near that, and that sounds really overwhelming, it's okay to take small steps to work up to even half that amount. If you're, say, a lot of clients that I see are getting maybe 1 serving of fruits or vegetables a day. So maybe it's just deciding that, okay, I'm going to try to get 3 servings a day. But for the DASH diet, what they recommend is 8 to 10 servings. And the main premise there, really, we know fruits and vegetables are full of all sorts of good nutrients and fiber and good stuff, but specifically it's the potassium in the fruits and vegetables that they found to be a big factor in lowering blood pressure. And that in the fruits and vegetables, also in the dairy, is a big factor, the potassium. And a serving there is like a small piece of fruit, or a half a cup of cooked vegetables, or a cup of leafy green vegetables. And so 8 to 10 servings can sound like a lot, but really when you start to add it up, for instance, a salad, you typically have more than just a cup of leafy greens. It's usually at least 2 cups, if not 3. And so right there, you've got 3 cups of vegetables. And last but not least, 5 servings, and this is per week, of nuts and beans. So nuts and beans are also an important part of the DASH. And by serving with nuts, a 1/4 cup, nuts are an easy place to kind of lose track of serving sizes. We tend to eat them out of, cans, or like if you go to Costco or Sam's and you get the large thing, it's really easy to overdo it with nuts. And nuts are wonderful. They're full of good fats and protein and fiber, but they're also one of those foods that's high in calories. And that's mainly because they're higher in good fat. And fat, no matter what type it is more dense in calories. When we compare calories, fat has 9 calories per gram. And when we compare it to protein and carbohydrates have 4 calories per gram. So same weight, and fat has more than double the amount of calories. So when we're talking about a serving of nuts, it's about a 1/4 cup, or a small handful is a serving. So just kind of keep that in mind. Sometimes that surprises clients when I'm talking to them, and it's just because it's so easy to kind of overdo it. So for instance, if you go to Costco and you get that big container of nuts, maybe you break it down before you get in that sort of snacky, hungry mode. You break it down into little snack bags, or the little reusable Ziploc containers, so that it's ready and waiting in the perfect little portion size. And then a serving of beans is about a half a cup. So I don't know how many beans y'all are eating, but they're also wonderful, natural little bundles of fiber and protein and carbohydrates. That's good carbohydrates that our body has to kind of work a little harder to break down, and so it doesn't cause spikes in blood sugar and that sort of thing. So half a cup there, and that's 5 times per week. So it's really a moderate protein diet. I know a lot of times we want, restriction as far as, if we think carbs, well, I need to cut all carbs out. And DASH is really just an overall healthy diet, not real restricted in any area, which really is the best kind of plan. It's moderate in protein, like I said, and it's low in saturated fat. That's a big part of it. And really, it's just a good, flexible plan that includes whole foods. And another key is that that point about it can be individualized to fit into anyone's lifestyle. So that is key in a plan working long term. A lot of times people go on these strict things and they think, well, it's working now, but will it work long term? And that's really the key with DASH, is that it is one that's easy to kind of make fit into your lifestyle no matter where you are. And it's a lot of food when you look at it. I'm going to show you here in a minute what a day looks like on the DASH diet. And, another key to staying with a plan is that you're not hungry all the time. So a lot of times, again, like I said, we want to restrict and think eat less, but then that ends up backfiring because we're starving all the time. So we don't want that. We want to be satisfied, and all the foods I just mentioned help to do that. So this, like I said, is a day. This is about a 1,600 calorie, day's worth of DASH foods. So if you look, a yummy omelet, Southwestern omelet with veggies, a piece of whole wheat toast, a little raspberry jam, some berries, and a coffee. For a snack, you've got your veggie with peanut butter. And then for lunch, nothing super crazy or fancy, just a good old grilled cheese on whole wheat bread with tomato, with one slice of cheese and some cucumbers on the side, or you could just do a regular leafy green salad, and a cup of sliced peaches, a snack, yogurt and a banana, and then for dinner, that chicken, sweet potato, some veggies, with a little salad with olive oil-based dressing. So if you haven't eaten lunch yet, hopefully that kind of makes you hungry, but you can see it's not a small amount of food, and you're kind of eating throughout the day, in order to meet that 1,600 calories, which is appropriate for many people. All right, so health benefits of DASH. So like I said, it was originally designed to lower blood pressure, but what they found is it has all sorts of other health benefits too, reducing cholesterol, lowering risk of cancer, stroke, heart disease, heart failure, kidney stones, and diabetes, improving insulin sensitivity. So anytime you can improve insulin sensitivity, which is basically your body's ability to basically make good use out of insulin, so take that blood sugar out of your bloodstream and put it to good use, that therefore reduces your risk of developing type 2 diabetes. Reducing inflammation is another benefit that was found, and then also promoting weight loss. So tons of benefits there. Really, when I was putting this together, I thought this sounds like it's fake, that there's no way that a diet does this. And a lot of times I'll see ads or, these things that pop up online about diets, and they'll name all the benefits, and you kind of go, wait a second, is that for real? And that's when I kind of check into things. But these are actual health benefits of the DASH diet. So really, it meets everyone's needs as far as overall health, and then specifically reducing risk of all types of diseases. All right, so tips on how to incorporate DASH. One simple thing, and these are really, I work with clients to try to help them sort of put, very SMART goals. You may have heard of that, but very specific, actionable, kind of measurable goals into place. And so these maybe, if you think, wow, the DASH sounds awesome and it sounds like something I want to do, maybe take note of these tips and maybe think about how you might incorporate these. So one is eat salad every day. And if you don't love just plain old leafy greens, which really sometimes isn't real satisfying, put stuff on your salad that makes it taste good. Tasty stuff that you like, so different veggies. To me, I like a salad that has some crunch to it, maybe a little sweetness, So texture to me with a salad is really important. So if you kind of are bored with salads, try to add some things in that make it interesting. Maybe it's beans or a few nuts. At Publix or really any grocery store, you can buy little nut mixes that have some dried fruit and nuts. And that I like to add into, or seeds also. Like sunflower seeds are a great addition to a salad. But any veggie works, of course, to top your leafy greens, bell peppers, cucumbers, carrots, even fruit, apples, strawberries, peaches. So really, you know, the choices are endless. But if you find yourself kind of going, on a salad, you might just take some time to kind of think about, well, what could I put on that salad to make it a little more interesting? And then, of course, people always ask me, well, what about the, you know, the dressing part? Because we can ruin a perfectly healthy, good salad with junky dressing. And so olive oil-based dressings are your best bet. And if you can make it yourself, that's even better. That second tip makes healthy eating convenient and easy. A lot of times we want to make eating well, you know, difficult and complicated, and it doesn't necessarily have to be. We can make eating better easier just by having things like bagged, ready-to-eat cut-up veggies around, like baby carrots. I mean, think about when you go to Publix now, you know, there are tons of veggies that are already cut up and ready to go for you. You know, bagged cabbages and slaw and broccoli slaw, cauliflower, and you know, all sorts of different things that are ready to go. So take advantage of those things. Another way to do that too is hit the salad bar at Publix or wherever you are, you know, to kind of put together a good salad. Yogurt is also a great, easy thing to have around. Some Greek yogurt and either some nuts or fruit or both, for that matter, thrown together is a perfect snack, and it doesn't have to be complicated. That number 3, make fresh veggies the center of your plate. A lot of times I think as, you know, as Americans, we design our plate around the meat. And that's really something that I have to struggle against too. It's kind of our culture, and it's kind of the way I was raised too. It's like, okay, we're having chicken, now what are we having with it? But if we can kind of start to, you know, kind of switch our thinking a little bit and maybe think of the veggie first and think, you know, okay, the meat is part of that maybe, but it doesn't have to be the main thing. Because really, if we're shooting to eat more fruits and veggies, trying to get at least half of our plate full is the idea. And then that last one, drink a smoothie for breakfast. So I get asked all the time about, you know, smoothies and what's the right thing, and you really want to be careful what you put in your smoothie. We can really, if it's fruit juice based, then that's one way that we get a lot of extra added sugar that we don't really need. So try to use whole fruits when you're making smoothies. Berries are great, bananas. Veggies are also great to throw in, you know, an avocado or spinach or some other leafy green, and maybe throw in some Greek yogurt or low-fat dairy or something along with it. And that way you get the balance of some protein, some carbs, and then some produce too. All right, so resources. So if this is something that sounds good to you and you think you want to find out more information about it, 2 books I recommend: The DASH Diet Weight Loss Solution by Marla Heller and The DASH Diet Action Plan. So if you're leaning towards, well, my focus is really not so much the blood pressure, but really to lose weight, I would go with The DASH Diet Weight Loss Solution. If you're more leaning towards maybe preventing heart disease or lowering blood pressure or whatever, then I might lean more towards The DASH Diet Action Plan. Both of those you can find on Amazon or really probably in any bookstore. All right, so I'll pause here. Does anyone have any questions you'd like to ask? I'll kind of be on the lookout here in the question box and see if anything pops up. This is a good breaking point. Any questions or even comments? Has anyone tried the DASH diet or had any experience with it, or want to make a comment or ask a question? Nobody. All right. Oh, Oh, I thought I saw something. Nope. All right, so we'll move on to the Mediterranean diet. What is the Mediterranean diet? So hopefully you've probably heard, people write about the Mediterranean diet all the time. And it's really not a diet necessarily. It's really more of a lifestyle based on people who live in the region around the Mediterranean Sea. So think Greece or Italy or Spain, that whole area there. And it's really a plan that's based on real whole foods, minimally processed foods, which is, a lot of what we in America have come to rely on is a lot of the processed, kind of ready to go, boxed, packaged foods. So just the simple move towards how can I get more real food? One easy way to kind of check yourself on that is to look at your grocery cart when you're done shopping and just take a quick, once over of what's in your cart and check it out and see, well, what's your sort of ratio? Do you have more processed foods than you do whole foods? And if so, how could you maybe change that? It's, like I said, low in minimally processed foods, and that includes processed meats like sausage and bacon and things like that. Also, red meat is pretty low in the Mediterranean diet. And a big part of that is meat doesn't typically, like I said, like I was just talking about, tend to be the center of the meal necessarily. It's part of it, and they tend to lean towards other meat sources like seafood and poultry and that sort of thing. It's also low in sweets. Soft drinks aren't a part of the Mediterranean diet, and then fast food is not. It's high in good fats, which are the monounsaturated fats. Those are the heart-healthy fats that we know help to lower our risk for heart disease, help to lower cholesterol levels, and some good sources of those fats that are in the Mediterranean diet are olive oil, nuts, avocados. All of those are good sources of good fats. And then that next one, which is a lot of people's favorite point of the Mediterranean diet, one that a lot of people like to focus on, is the wine in moderation part. So we'll talk about more about that and sort of the guidelines there, but the key to that is moderation. So wine can be healthy as far as a lot of different disease states go, but moderation is key. And then daily physical activity is also a huge part of the Mediterranean diet. Like I said, the Mediterranean diet sort of is more of a lifestyle than it is a diet necessarily. And so another big sort of part of that way of life is really savoring and enjoying food. And that's really just a part of, the culture. And so many of us have gotten away from that. Food is just one more thing we have to do. It's something that we kind of rush and get done and move on. And so there's not, most of the time, a whole lot of savoring and enjoying of the food we eat. So just a move and sort of an awareness to getting back to that and really starting to pay more attention to what we're putting in our body. We tend to so often, and I see it over and over with clients, we tend to eat mindlessly, where we're constantly doing other things, whether it's being on the computer or in front of the TV or whatever. And so if we're doing that, of course, we're not paying a whole lot of attention to our food and to our bodies. Another big part of the sort of the lifestyle is sharing meals with others, with friends and family, and that's also a big part of the Mediterranean way of life. If you are interested, I just thought of a book. It's called The Blue Zones. And if you are interested at all about learning what basically the Blue Zones are, people who live past the age of 100 but do it in a healthy way. And so basically a guy named Dan Buettner has done a lot of research on those Blue Zones and what their habits are. So there are two books, The Blue Zones, and then there's also one called The Blue Zone Solution. And those give you kind of specific tips on how to kind of incorporate, this Mediterranean way of life. I just thought of that. It was on my bookshelf. So That's some really interesting research that he's found with those people. So foods included in the Mediterranean diet, these might sort of sound familiar. Some of the things we've just been talking about: beans, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, olive oil. Like I said, less red meat and more fish, seafood, and poultry. And eggs and dairy are also a good part of the Mediterranean diet. So health benefits-wise, what they found, tons of research done on the Mediterranean diet and what the health benefits are. And again, all sorts of benefits. So protecting against heart attack, stroke, premature death, lowering cholesterol, helping with weight loss, and, of course, not designed to do that, but just as a way of eating. What they found is people who eat in this way really just have a tendency to just manage their weight a little, more effortlessly. Improving blood sugar control, again, with the inflammation, that's part of improving rheumatoid arthritis. So if you have arthritis of any form, the Mediterranean diet, or an anti-inflammatory type diet, which is basically what the Mediterranean diet is, would probably be a good route to go. And then also reducing the risk of Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, and cancer. So again, sounds like, a fake kind of ad for a bogus diet, but really these are real supported, evidence-based, things that have been found as far as health benefits with the Mediterranean diet. So a few tips. If you kind of, again, think, all right, this one sounds like the one for me, these are some tips that you might consider to kind of put into action. Filling half your plate with vegetables at lunch and dinner. If you were on my webinar last time, I mentioned a company called Precise Portions, and they basically have plates that make it a little bit easier to do this, to incorporate this tip of filling half your plate with vegetables at lunch and dinner. So they have plates that have kind of these gentle lines, these reminders of portions and how your plate should be arranged. So if you're looking for just sort of some tools to help make that a little easier, that company may be one you just might want to check into. Precise Portions is the name of that, or you can find the stuff on Amazon too. And they have to-go things, and they have china, plates that you could actually keep at home, and they're dishwasher safe. So that may be something you want to check into. Another tip might be to swap red meat for seafood. So a lot of us kind of, red meat is the go-to, or even chicken. Sometimes chicken can just get old. And so, do you like seafood? Is it something you would consider to incorporate on a regular basis? And specifically, the more fatty fish like salmon and tuna are good sources of omega-3, which are good fatty acids that help protect us from heart disease. And so those are ones. Maybe you have salmon once a week if you like it. And salmon is one of those things that's so easy to prepare, whether it's sort of broiled in the oven or pan sauteed, like in a cast iron skillet. Super easy to prepare. If you live here in Tallahassee, and I'm sure this service is available anywhere, I would check with your local seafood market. But here in Tallahassee, one of the Southern Seafood will actually steam shrimp for you and have it ready when you get there to pick up. So that's a nice little thing to take advantage of. You tell them, all right, I want a pound of shrimp deveined, peeled and deveined, and you go and it's ready to go. And you could toss that into a one-pot dish, or just eat it alone along with some veggies and a sweet potato or something. But anytime we can make dinner easier is of course great. Another tip is cook a meatless meal one night a week. That's a great thing to try to incorporate, to kind of try to get away from depending on meat all the time. The more we can kind of make that move to a plant-based diet, the better, overall for our health. So there is a website called Meatless Mondays, I think it's just meatlessmondays.com. And you can go there, and they have tons of ideas to help you incorporate meatless meals, and just kind of opening your, your willingness to try that, and just being open to what does that mean, and what might I be able to incorporate. All right, using good fats is another tip. So replacing butter with extra virgin olive oil or canola oil, both of those are good fats. Incorporating more nuts, peanuts, sunflower seeds, olives, avocados. All of those would be good toppings on a salad. I might not do all of them all at one time, but that's one way to use those things, is to top a salad with them, or like I like to add walnuts to my oatmeal or cereal, or you can add it to yogurt. So there's lots of different ways you can kind of switch up the way you use those good fats. And then also the last tip is base snacks on real food. So this is one that a lot of us could probably make as a goal. And I know it's sometimes you're hungry, you go to the pantry, or you're at work or wherever, and you go to the snack machine, and what do they have? They have a bunch of processed junk. Or you maybe at home you have crackers and things like that in the pantry, and those are easy kind of go-to things. But I urge you and encourage you to kind of think differently about your snacks and try to maybe have things ready in advance. Like I was saying, take those nuts and kind of portion them out so they're ready to go. Have low-fat cheeses like those string cheese, or you can buy the little individually wrapped little cheese snacks too, or Greek yogurt, like I said, a super easy snack to have. Or cottage cheese is another good sort of dairy. But the more we can kind of base our snacks on real food versus just packaged, processed stuff, then that's a move in the direction of the Mediterranean diet. All right, so some resources for you. I mentioned the Blue Zones diet, and it's not maybe necessarily a Mediterranean diet resource, but lots of information and sort of evidence, and he's just a good writer, and it's just kind of interesting to hear about his stories and that sort of thing of the people in this area. But specifically, there are two books: The Old Ways 4-Week Mediterranean Diet Menu Plan. It's a really long title, but this book is great because it gives you basically a month, 4 weeks of exactly what to eat. And I know people like menu plans, and it is helpful to kind of put things into practice. They also list out snacks, and it's a little book that's easy to kind of carry with you too. And you can also find that either on the Old Ways website or on Amazon. The Everything Mediterranean Diet book is also a great book if you just didn't quite get enough information here, you want to learn more. There are recipes and that sort of thing. So two great resources. All right, so moving on, the MIND diet. What is the MIND diet? The MIND diet, MIND stands for Mediterranean Diet Intervention for Neurodegenerative Delay. That's a mouthful. But basically what it is just kind of a combination Mediterranean kind of plan. And what they did is looked at specifically how a diet can maybe protect against Alzheimer's and dementia. So that was kind of the main focus of this study that was done, I believe, at Rush University, but I'm not sure about that actually. If you want to know, you can Google it and it'll pull right up. But basically what they found are 15 specific foods, 10 that are brain healthy and 5 that they found to be harming to memory and brain function. So those 10 brain healthy foods to try to include more often, and 5 of those brain harming foods to try to avoid. So they specifically lay that out, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. And each of the foods were found through the research to have key nutrients that were either a positive thing or negative. And so those 10 brain-boosting foods that are included in the main diet and encouraged are whole grains. Any of this sound familiar? Whole grains, vegetables, leafy greens, wine, and specifically red wine, nuts, beans, poultry, chicken and turkey, basically, berries specifically, so not just fruit necessarily, but they found berries to be particularly protective, fish, and olive oil, and those were the 10 brain-boosting foods. And then the five sort of brain-harming foods: butter, margarine, fried fast food, red meat, full-fat cheese, and pastries and sweets. And those were the ones that they found to be sort of the opposite of neuroprotective. So the way that it worked and what they found is they looked at the intake of these foods, and they basically ranked them by score. So they gave participants a score based on how well they did and how often they were able to follow and incorporate the MIND foods. And so they based it on a possible perfect score of 15. So if you included all 10 of the brain-boosting foods and never ate the 5 brain-harming foods, that would mean you got a 15. And what they found was, I don't think many people, if any, were perfect, for one, and that's a good sort of thing to remember when you go about making change. It's not about perfection, it's about just gradually making change and doing the best that you can. But what they found in this study in particular was that people who, and they called it rigorously, followed the diet with a score of 9.6, so that's 9.6 out of 15, lowered their risk for Alzheimer's disease by 53%, which is significant, which is hugely significant. And anyone who's had a family member that struggled with Alzheimer's or dementia, most of us, we can say we've been touched in some way by Alzheimer's, and so anything we could do to try to, reduce our risk is a good thing. And they also found that even people who moderately followed the MIND diet, so with a score of 7.5, saw positive results of a 35% reduction. So again, it doesn't mean following. So if you see that list of if you see that list of foods and think, well, I'm not, I'm including at least 2 of those brain-harming foods, or 3 or 4 for that matter, and maybe 2 of the, brain-boosting foods, it's just about sort of shifting your habits and how can you kind of maybe change that. But it's also not about perfection either, because as you see, by just incorporating, 7.5, of those points there, then you can actually have a positive reduction in risk. All right, so tips on incorporating the MIND diet. Whole grains are an important part of brain health, and so eating at least 3 servings of whole grains a day. So if you think about the grains that you eat, the breads, the pastas, the crackers, anything like that that's a grain, how can you maybe switch that to a whole grain, so a whole wheat kind of option? And so just looking at that and seeing how you might be able to incorporate that. Eat a leafy green salad. So we've talked probably ad nauseum about salads, but always a good thing to try to incorporate a good salad. I found one way that we've been eating more salads is I found one of the bagged lettuces. I can't remember the brand, but it's called Sweet and Crunchy, and oftentimes they have it buy one, get one at Publix. And so I always have at least 1, if not 2 bags of that in the fridge, and we tend to keep toppings around too that are good in a salad. So that may be just that simple act of having it in the fridge and ready. We usually have that and baby spinach always in our refrigerator. So it makes it easy just to throw together an easy salad. So that drink red wine, of course, again, which is one that a lot of people like to hear. But like I said, moderation is key. So by moderation, I mean 1 5-ounce glass per day for women and 2 5-ounce glasses per day for men. So really any more than that, and it's no longer a positive thing. And I know I know lots of you might have comments on that or thoughts, and I hear about it all the time from friends and that sort of thing. But as much as you can keep, in moderation with red wine, the better. And a lot of that is really a habit. We tend to, sort of have that glass and then think, well, that one was really good. A second one will be equally as good. And so you just immediately go for that second glass. But if you can kind of pause and just, kind of take a pause before you automatically kind of go with that habit, that can be helpful. And just some awareness too. Gosh, how many glasses of wine am I drinking? And just to give you some reference, a bottle should have about 5 glasses in it. So if you're going through a bottle of wine every 2 days, then maybe that, might be an area that needs some attention. All right, and that last tip, eat a half cup of berries twice a week. So if you never eat berries of any kind, whether it's blueberries or strawberries or raspberries or whatever it is you like, maybe you start to think about how could I maybe twice a week incorporate those. You top a salad with berries, you throw some in the, I said that twice. Top a salad, throw some in your salad. You can tell I'm encouraging the salad. Or have it in your oatmeal, which is what I like. I don't love fresh blueberries very much for whatever reason. It's just something I don't love, and so I keep them in the freezer. And so I throw them in with my oatmeal when I cook my oatmeal, and it warms them up, and it's really good. That and walnuts and oatmeal, and that's a super balanced breakfast. Or you can top yogurt with berries too. And I believe that their research was specific to blueberries. So all berries are great, sort of superfoods, but blueberries is what the Mind Diet really seems to focus on. All right, so resources. A really good book written by a fellow dietitian is called The Mind Diet, A Scientific Approach to Enhancing Brain Function and Helping Prevent Alzheimer's and Dementia. Again, another long title, but a really good book full of information and tips and ideas and recipes too. So if the Mind Diet seems like, maybe Alzheimer's and dementia runs in your family, maybe it's a concern of yours and you want to do everything you can do to try to protect against it. And so maybe you start to incorporate some of the tips we talked about, or might be interested in more information about the Mind Diet. So that's a great resource. All right, so taking all of that information and kind of comparing DASH and Mediterranean, because remember, Mind is really a combination of the Mediterranean and DASH diet. But they're very similar, as you can tell by the information that we reviewed. They have similar health benefits as a result. Really, the main difference between the two is that the Mediterranean diet is higher in heart-healthy fats. So olive oil and olives, those kinds of things are more emphasized in the Mediterranean diet. Some research has been done on DASH, and although that's a fairly low-fat diet, there's also been research done to include more fat, sort of to add fat to the DASH diet, good fats, of course. And they actually found, of course, that it was still beneficial and still had health benefits. So basically, Mediterranean is essentially the DASH diet with maybe a little more emphasis on good fat. But like I said, very similar. So your whole grains, your fruits, vegetables, seeds, olive oil, beans, nuts, all of those are, similar to both diets. All right, so time, hopefully everybody's listening. Time for our $50 gift card giveaway. Everybody ready? Name 3 foods emphasized in the DASH, Mediterranean, and Mind diet. So the first person to send me an answer will win a $50 gift card. All right, I got an answer, and it's beans, grains, and yogurt. And I'm trying to see who that is from, and all I can see is SC for some reason. Okay, now I've got it. I got it. Scott Gumbar is the winner of our $50 gift card. Let me take a second and write down your name so I can make sure that you get your gift card. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for being here. Yeah, besides what Scott mentioned, and just as a little review and maybe some things you want to consider incorporating, whole grains, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, beans, fish, and seafood are all, super healthy foods to include in a healthy diet. So I appreciate so much you being here and taking the time, like I said, to listen in. Please check out my website. It's AnnaJonesRD.com. It's a website, but it's also a blog that I try to update on a fairly regular basis. I added a blog today. I included a recipe, and sometimes I'll do recipes. Sometimes it's just information. So please check that out, and you can put in your email if you're interested on my front page, and you'll get my blog emailed to you when I post them. Or you can find me on Facebook too. I put, just sort of interesting articles and little tidbits on there too. So thank you so much, and I hope you have a great day.